All right, so today we're going deep on the Azure Well-Architected Framework.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. And this framework, it's all about making those top-tier cloud apps on Azure.
For sure.
But we're going to get into like all the details,
Yeah.
all the nitty-gritty on how to actually make these cloud apps that are reliable and efficient, secure, and cost-effective.
Yeah.
So this is like your backstage pass, everybody, to cloud app success.
I like that.
Right.
Backstage
Right.
presence.
So for someone who maybe has heard about this framework,
Right.
but hasn't like really gotten into it,
Yeah.
what is it?
What is it?
Like, what's the
Yeah,
elevator
definitely.
pitch?
It's really Microsoft's set of best practices for designing and deploying applications on Azure.
Okay.
And the key here is it's not just like a set of rules that you
Okay.
have to follow blindly.
Right.
It's more of a philosophy or a mindset for approaching cloud solutions in the best way possible from the start.
Yeah. So it's like it's a philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not.
It's not like a checklist.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, okay, I
did this.
It's like a framework.
Did this. I'm good.
It's like a framework.
It's about understanding these principles.
Yeah.
And how to apply them to your specific situation.
Gotcha. So there's some structure to this framework.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So the structure of the framework kind of breaks down into a few key parts.
Okay.
First, we have the guiding principles.
Guiding principles.
So these are like the high-level concepts and ideas
Gotcha.
that really form the foundation
Okay.
of any solid cloud solution.
Wait, so this is like the North Star
Exactly.
of the framework.
It's like your North Star
Gotcha.
guiding you towards building something great.
Yeah.
And a lot of these are things you probably already know and do if you're an experienced cloud engineer.
Right.
But it's nice to have them all laid out
Yeah.
in a clear, concise way. So it's like best practices, but kind of taking it up a notch.
Exactly. It's like codifying those best practices.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone's on the same page.
I like it. All right. So what's next after the guiding?
So after the guiding principles, we get into the review process.
Okay.
So this is where Azure actually provides you with a tool that allows you to assess your application
Oh, cool.
against these best practices.
So it's like you get to put your app under the microscope.
Exactly. And you can see where you're doing well.
Oh, nice.
And where there's room for improvement.
Okay. So like a report card
Kind of like a report card.
for your app.
Yeah.
Okay. And so this tool, it's all based on the framework.
Yes. So the tool is aligned with the 5 pillars of the framework.
Ooh, 5 pillars.
Yeah.
Okay. So what
Which we'll talk about in a sec.
Okay. So we have these principles. We have this review process. What are these pillars?
All right. So these 5 pillars are really the core of the framework. They're like the essential ingredients you need to bake a delicious cloud application cake.
Okay, I'm listening. I like that analogy.
I do like a good cake analogy.
Yeah.
All right. So what are the 5 pillars?
Okay, so the 5 pillars are cost optimization,
Okay.
operational excellence,
Uh-huh.
performance efficiency,
Okay.
reliability, and
Exactly.
security.
So those are the 5 pillars that make up a well-architected application.
Exactly.
Those are the
Okay.
5 key areas that you need to focus on
Gotcha.
to make sure your app is successful on Azure.
Okay, so let's break these down one by one.
Yeah.
And like what are some things people should be thinking about, like concrete things
Sure.
in each of these pillars?
Absolutely.
Let's start with cost optimization.
Okay, so cost optimization.
Yeah.
It's not just about being cheap,
Right.
right? It's about being smart.
Being smart with your money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that you're getting the most value out of every dollar that you spend on Azure.
So like how do you actually do that?
So there's a few key things you can do.
Okay.
One of the most important is right-sizing your resources.
Okay.
So this means choosing the right virtual machine size,
Right.
the right storage type,
Uh-huh.
the right database tier
Okay.
for your specific needs.
So it's about like picking the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not just going with the cheapest option.
Right. Because sometimes the cheapest option will cost you more in the long run.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, what else? Another important aspect of cost optimization is understanding the different pricing models that Azure offers.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways that you can pay for Azure services. So
Yeah.
you need to figure out which one is going to be the most cost effective for your particular workload.
Yeah. And like your usage patterns and all that stuff.
Exactly. So for example,
Yeah.
if you have a workload that's running 24/7,
Right.
you might want to consider using reserved instances because that can save you a significant amount of money. But if you have a workload that's more sporadic, you might want to use something like spot VMs, which are basically VMs that you can bid on, and you can get them for a much lower price.
Yeah, if you're flexible on when they run and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got...
So there's a lot of different options there. It's just about doing your research.
Research is key.
And figuring out what's going to work best for you.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's cost optimization. What about operational excellence?
All right, so operational excellence.
This is the next pillar.
Yes. Yeah. So this is all about making sure that your application is running smoothly and efficiently.
Okay.
And that you have the processes in place
to
keep it that way.
So, like, what does that actually look like?
So a big part of operational excellence is having robust monitoring in place.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to see what's happening with your application at all times.
Right. So you can catch problems before they become big problems.
Exactly. You want to be able to identify issues before they start impacting your users.
And proactively fix them. Ideally.
Exactly.
Right.
And then another important aspect of operational excellence is having a clear process for incident management.
So when things go wrong...
Exactly, because things will go wrong.
Let's be real. Things always go wrong.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Especially in technology.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to have a plan in place for how you're going to deal with those incidents.
You're not scrambling
when
something breaks at 3 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to be trying to figure out who to call and what to do in the middle of the night.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
So you got to have a plan in place.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then finally, documentation.
Documentation, yeah.
This is like the unsung hero of operational excellence.
It's so important.
It is so important. Clear, concise documentation is like a gift to your future self.
Yes.
And to anyone else who might need to work on your application.
Yeah, and I think we've all been there where we're like,
right.
I wish I had documented this better like 6 months ago.
Exactly. Or you inherit a project from someone.
Yeah.
And there's no documentation.
Oh, it's the worst.
And you're just like pulling your hair out.
Yeah, like how does this even work?
Right.
Okay, documentation's super important.
Very important.
All right, so that's operational excellence.
Yeah.
What about performance efficiency?
All right, so performance efficiency.
Yeah.
This is all about making sure that your application is fast and responsive.
Yeah.
And that it can handle the load.
No one likes a slow app.
No one likes a slow app. So you need to make sure that your app can scale to meet demand.
Yeah.
And that you're using the right Azure services for your specific needs.
So, like, what are some tips for making sure that your app is performant?
So one of the most important things is to choose the right Azure services.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different services available.
Yeah, there's a ton.
And each one is designed for a specific purpose.
Right.
So you need to make sure that you're using the right service for the job.
So it's about like understanding your workloads and picking the right service to match.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for example, if you're building a web application, you might want to use Azure App Service.
Okay.
But if you're building a serverless application, you might want to use Azure Functions.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay, so choose the right service for the job.
Exactly.
What else?
Another important tip is to performance test your application.
Oh, performance testing.
Yeah. So this is basically where you put your application under load. And you see how it performs.
So you're simulating like real world usage.
Exactly. And this can help you identify any bottlenecks or performance issues that you might not otherwise catch.
And I imagine this is something that you should do like continuously, right?
Yes, definitely.
Not just like a one-time thing.
Yeah, you should be performance testing your application on a regular basis.
Yeah, as your app evolves and as your usage patterns evolve. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so that's performance efficiency. What about reliability?
All right, so reliability.
This is another super important one.
Yeah, this is all about making sure that your application is available when your users need it.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that your app can handle failures.
Okay.
And that it can recover quickly from those failures.
Yeah, because things will fail.
Things will fail.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, what are some specific things that people can do to make sure that their apps are reliable?
So one of the most important things is to design for redundancy.
Okay.
So this means having multiple instances of your application running.
And different availability zones.
So if one goes down, the other one can pick up the slack.
Exactly. So that if one instance fails, the other instances can pick up the slack.
So there's no single point of failure.
Exactly. You want to eliminate those single points of failure.
Okay, what else?
Another important aspect of reliability is backups.
Oh, backups. Yes.
Yeah.
Super important.
Super important. You need to make sure that you're backing up your data regularly.
Yeah.
And that you have a plan in place for how you're going to restore that data if something happens.
So if there's like a catastrophic failure, you can get back up and running.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are different types of backups that you can do.
Right.
You can do full backups.
Okay.
You can do incremental backups.
Right.
So again, it just depends on your specific needs.
And your recovery time objective and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so redundancy backups, those are key for reliability. What about security?
All right, so security.
This is a big one.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah.
So this is all about making sure that your application and your data are protected from unauthorized access and from attacks.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different things that you can do to secure your application.
Right.
But some of the most important are having a strong identity and access management system in place.
So controlling who has access to what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that only the people who need access to your application and your data have access.
And that they only have the level of access that they need.
Exactly.
Yeah, least privilege, all that good stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
Another important aspect of security is encryption.
Encryption, yeah.
Yeah.
So like encrypting your data at rest and in transit.
Exactly.
Right.
So this basically means that even if someone does gain access to your data, they're not going to be able to read it.
Unless they have the key.
Unless they have the key.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so encryption, super important.
Super important.
And then what about like threat detection?
Oh, yeah, threat detection.
Like how do you make sure that you're staying ahead of the bad guys?
So this is where you're basically monitoring your application and your environment for any suspicious activity.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different tools and services that can help you with this.
Right.
But the key is to be proactive.
Okay.
You don't want to wait until you've been attacked.
No.
To start thinking about security.
Yeah, you want to be ahead of the game.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are like the key things that people should be thinking about when it comes to security.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've covered the 5 pillars.
We've covered the pillars.
That's like the foundation of a well-architected application.
Yep.
But like, how do you actually use this framework?
Right.
Like, it's one thing to know what the 5 pillars are.
But it's another thing to actually like put them into practice.
Right. So it's not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing process.
Okay.
So it starts with that assessment we talked about earlier.
Right. So that tool that gives you like a report card.
Yeah, it's like a personalized report card for your application.
Yeah.
And it'll show you how your application measures up
Okay.
against each of the 5 pillars.
Gotcha.
And then based on that assessment,
Okay.
you can create an action plan.
So this is where you're actually like taking action.
Exactly.
Oh.
So you're going to identify the areas where you need to improve.
Okay.
And you're going to create a plan for how you're going to make those improvements.
So you're not just like boiling the ocean.
Exactly.
You're like strategically picking the things that are going to have the biggest impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's important to prioritize those actions.
Oh.
You know, you don't have to do everything at once. Just focus on the things that are going to make the biggest difference.
And what are some examples of things that people might do as part of their action plan?
Sure. So some examples might be refactoring code.
Okay.
Reconfiguring infrastructure, implementing new security measures.
Okay.
You know, it really just depends on what your assessment shows.
Right. Each app's going to have its own unique set of needs.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then what?
And then you implement those actions.
Okay.
So you actually go in and make the changes.
Right. Roll up your sleeves and get it done?
Yeah.
Okay. And then?
And then you monitor.
Okay.
So this is an ongoing process.
This is the continuous improvement part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to regularly revisit your assessment.
Okay.
See how your application is performing and make adjustments to your action plan as needed.
Gotcha.
Because the world of technology is constantly changing. So you need to be able to adapt to those changes.
Awesome. So it's like it's a continuous cycle.
It's a cycle
of assessment, action, and adaptation. And that's how you stay well-architected.
That's how you stay well-architected.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so insightful. I feel like I actually have a really good handle now on how to use this framework to build amazing cloud applications.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really encourage you to dive deeper into the resources.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of information out there.
Yeah, Microsoft Docs has tons of information about this framework.
Tons of documentation.
And all the different pillars and all that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. This has been fun.
This has been great.
Yeah.
And to all of you listening, thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
So head over to social media.
Yes.
Share your thoughts on the Azure Well-Architected Framework. Use the hashtag the deep dive.
Yeah. Let us know what you think.
We want to hear about like the challenges you've faced
Yeah.
in building these like reliable, cost-effective cloud apps.
For sure.
So yeah, until next time.
See ya.
Happy building.
All right.
Bye.